Hello, my name is Ryan Clement. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or if you listen to my podcast, welcome to my podcast. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing my dear friend, Detective Constable Shaun Pascal, who told us what it was like growing up in London, becoming a police officer, and the good work he does in the community. I hope you enjoy it. So, Shaun, thank you very much for doing this. I should tell people that we have known each other many, many years, and I know you're a busy, busy man. But what I must say is this. I contacted you, I think it was last week, asking you to do this. And without hesitation, you said yes right away. And I really appreciate it. I'm sure those who are watching this will appreciate it too, for you to share your experience, knowledge, and expertise on and has been a good role model on how you got to where you are. So welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for being a good friend all these years.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Now, what I want to do, I want to go right back to the beginning, back to your roots. Where did the young Sean grow up? And what was your childhood like?
Okay, so the young Sean grew up in Southwest London, Wandsworth, Fulham.
Right.
When Fulham was very different in my childhood. It was I think it was predominantly a black area. A lot of West Indians moved to Fulham, um, and Shepherd's Bush and places like that. So yeah, that's where I grew up.
Right. It's amazing that our paths didn't cross sooner because that's where I was brought up in that part of the world. Um, Lived in Hammersmith and went to school in Fulham. So,
There you
and
go.
used to play
Yeah,
football in Wandsworth as well. I thought I was a budding footballer in those days, but
yeah.
didn't quite work out. So I settled for coming to the bar instead. But our paths may have crossed, all you know.
I'm
May have crossed.
definitely well. We know that our families have crossed
That's right. That's right.
because we are linked through various family members, but we've only
Yes.
sort of discovered that. And I think your uncle or someone may have gone to the same school as my dad.
Yes, yes, that's right. I mean, I leave it to you to say what heritage we
Yeah.
share. I leave it to you.
Yeah, my parents came from Grenada, a little island called Grenada. And next to Grenada is an even smaller beautiful island called Carriacou.
Yeah, yeah,
And I know that's predominantly where your family comes from.
that's correct.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, a lot of people um, from Carriacou went on to go to school in Grenada.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it all links
Yeah,
in.
that's right. That's right. Yes, indeed, indeed. That is the heritage link and connection. Although many of us don't even going to touch on this because it's really about you. I know, I know many times when we've spoken, quite proudly, you have mentioned a famous uncle, but many of us grew up like I did, knowing a famous uncle of yours. Do you wish to say who that
Yeah,
famous
yeah,
uncle?
yeah. So yeah, my uncle's Alex Pascal, OBE.
Yeah,
Um, Grenadian born, came over to England in the late 50s
yeah,
as a drummer,
yeah,
and went on to become an institution, really. He was one of the uh, founders of the Notting Hill Carnival. He was the chair of the Notting Hill Carnival in the 80s and managed to save it
yeah,
from extinction. Um, and also was the co-founder of the Voice newspaper.
wow,
Uh, Played an instrumental role in setting up Choice FM,
wow, wow,
which
yeah,
is now
yeah,
Capital Extra,
yeah,
and the list goes on and on and on. And he's now about 87, 88, still going strong.
right, right,
And has been a huge, a great mentor for me and a great inspiration for
good,
me as well. And I should also add, he was the person that unearthed the story around Windrush generation
right,
as
right,
well.
right, right, yeah,
Not the story as you know now with people getting set, but the story of that generation coming over
right,
um,
right,
on the
right,
Windrush. So
wow,
yeah, he
yeah,
has played a very important role in our Black history uh,
Absolutely,
in this
absolutely.
country.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. Well, I understand you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I understand that you've recently is a celebration anniversary of 2 decades as a serving police officer. Is that correct?
That is correct. And wow, has it gone by quickly?
Wow, fantastic,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah. So yeah, it's had its challenges,
Yeah,
but
we'll come on to
um,
those.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
But I joined the Met because I wanted a challenge. Um,
right, right.
and and on the whole, when I look back, it has been uh an experience.
Yeah,
It has shaped the person I am today.
right, right.
And it's
So,
been
how
very
so? How so? We say shape the person. We're going to come on to why
yeah.
you decided to become a police officer, but how would you say the Sean just prior to becoming a police officer is different from the Sean today, 20 years later as a serving police officer?
I think the Sean Pryor was um very how shall I put it? Naive
Hmm.
in some respects,
Hmm.
um, to the world and people around, um, and really didn't know who Sean was at that point. He was still, still finding himself.
Yes.
Um, but it's through the challenges I've really had to dig deep
Mm.
to find out who Sean really is and what's important to me, what my values are, and how my values um, stand alongside policing.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so yeah, and it's I've grown in confidence because of policing and because of the challenges I've overcome.
Hmm.
And it's given me more humility, more understanding, more empathy, and a desire to understand other people's perspectives, even though I don't agree with them.
Hmm.
I can still somewhat empathize and a desire to find common ground with people.
Right. Right.
So as well, and it brought out a lot of qualities in me I didn't even know existed.
Good. Good.
Um,
Yeah.
Leadership
Yeah.
qualities and things like that. So it's been a very humbling experience, a very rewarding experience. And I just like being able to help people and touch people's lives in a meaningful way.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and this job gives me the ability to do that on a daily basis.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned growing up in the area in Fulham and
yeah.
Wandsworth and various places like that. And when I was a youngster, I didn't have the benefit, the privilege of meeting role models like yourself. And I remember that many of us in Fulham would be saying we want to become footballers, doctors and lawyers, even though we said it, we don't really at that time it was unlikely we would become it. Um, but I'm going to be honest with you, that I never, or I can't recall, it's a few years since I was back at school. I don't recall people saying, I want to become a police officer. So what led you to want to join the force? What is it? What was that moment you think, I don't want to become a footballer, a lawyer, a dentist, a doctor. I want to be a police officer. What was it that made you become that?
I think it was a calling from an early age, um, a sense of righteousness, um, a sense of caring for people, and wanting to stand up for people and, protecting their rights. And, I was always interested in cop programs and TV series and things like that. But it, yeah, it was really just a calling. And you got to understand, we have police officers in the West Indies, and yeah, I've got family that were in the police.
Yeah.
And so it was already somewhat in my DNA. But yeah, I just really felt passionate about building some bridges and understanding. I thought, if I bring myself, people, I get on with people. I like to think I get on with people.
Yeah,
And as a civilian, I had no problem talking to police officers on the street, and we'd engage and got on very well. And I thought, well, if I could bring this into policing, bring myself into policing, what barriers could I possibly break down?
yeah,
If people get to know me as a black man, you know,
mm,
hopefully they'll start to see other people from my community
yeah,
as human beings.
yes,
And we'll find a lot of common ground, find we've got a lot of interests, and it's a way of coming together.
yes, yes,
So, and apart from that, I like police work. I like investigating. I like ch I like that challenge of being told, oh, you'll never solve this, and then I crack that investigation.
yeah,
So yeah, it's all these things. But sadly, yeah, it was never encouraged as a young black man or child to that policing was a career for us. And I could understand people had their fears, and quite rightly so. But it was not never something a fear that fazed me,
yeah,
and
yeah.
stopped that desire for me to become a police officer. And I felt, well, you know, if there aren't any role models out there, then why not try and become one?
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
yes. And you have, and you have. There's no two ways about it. I mean, I did I was invited to speak at a careers week in a school last week or the week before last, and it was so rewarding. I got beautiful cards from the children and so on. I do think, I'm not saying I'm a role model, but being a role model, I think it's very important. You've mentioned being black and being a black male. Do you think it's important that other people see officers who may look like them, may not look like them, but do you think that's important when you say being a black
yeah,
officer?
absolutely. Yeah, I think black police officers play a vital role in our community in bridging understanding, inspiring young people to um to become police officers, or if they or get involved in anything community based. And for me, policing is one of those ways you can do that. You can help your community and keep them safe. And I see, when I go into schools and places, I see the young people's reaction initially, and then after a while and talking to them, they forget I'm a police officer.
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and they feel quite comfortable around me, and and there's occasions I've got to talking to people, and it's not till the end of the conversation I've told them I'm a police officer,
Right.
and
Oh,
and, and their view may have in the beginning be, I don't like police officers for whatever reason, but by the end of it,
yeah.
they have already warmed to me, so
Yes. Yes.
what can they say,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's great to be able to smash that uh illusion
Yeah. Yeah.
people have
Absolutely.
of perception of what police officers look and sound like.
Yes, yes. Oh, lovely. So what do you do? So what training does one undertake? So just take us through, because some people will be looking at this and want to know, how do you get into the force? So there's Shaun, who suddenly decides to become a police officer. Then what did you do to become that police officer?
Okay, so then the procedure might have changed slightly,
Sure.
but back then I had to go an interview.
Right.
And obviously that interview went very well.
Yeah.
I had to go had to do a couple of tests. Um, and once my application was accepted, I went to training school for 4 months.
Is that Hendon?
That would have been Hendon. Yeah,
Right.
and
God, that's well known for some
yeah,
reason.
absolutely. And I had to live there, and I chose to live there
Hmm.
whilst I did the training because it was very intense. Lots of exams. I'm talking triple figures.
Wow.
When
Wow.
you look at like the written exams and the practical exams,
Yes.
uh, um, and for me, someone who'd left school with a handful of GCSEs,
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
completed college or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was I was going into the unknown because
Yeah.
I didn't know what I could achieve, and I have to admit it was a struggle.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
the beginning, it was a real struggle.
Yeah.
Um, and I failed my first few exams.
Yeah.
So I was up against it right from the get-go.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
but by the end of it, the penny dropped and I was getting the grades and I made it through.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the experience because like I said, I've never been to university.
Yeah.
People talk about university and the great times they have there.
Yeah.
So I absolutely made the most of it,
Yeah.
um, and have a lot of fond memories. Made a lot of lifelong friends,
Good.
and yeah, it was so yeah. So that was the process, and then from there, I went. You go on to your borough.
Yeah.
My borough was Barnet.
Right.
And you spent 2 years on probation there.
2 years.
2 years. Yeah,
Wow.
everyone go.
Wow.
That hasn't changed. People
Right.
still have to do 2 years probation on their borough before they
Right.
get signed off as a substantive police
Right.
competent constable.
Yes.
So that was me. But I mean, within a year, I knew I wanted to go into investigating, so I ended up behind the desk,
Right.
investigating low-level crimes,
Right.
and made up my mind from that point. I wanted to be a detective.
Wow.
So
Wow.
plus
Wow.
I don't like the cold, standing on cordons and things like that. So
Right. Right.
yeah, a nice warm office sounded good for me.
Right, right, right. Right. Now, I did mention about when I was younger, and I did say it might be like yourself as well, where you didn't normally hear youngsters say they want to become police officers, and they say seeing role models like yourself, hopefully that things have changed over the years, or change following watching this. What would you say was the biggest challenge you had from the public when you first became a police officer?
The public, look, in all honesty, I think that the challenge was actually the fear that was instilled in me about being a black police officer and how the black community would perceive me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so that was the biggest challenge, overcoming my that fear that had been instilled in me. But to be honest, there was actually no need for me to worry at all
Really?
because it was the exact opposite.
Wow.
The black community in particular actually embraced and have supported and nurtured me
Um,
um, over my career.
yes.
Um,
Yes.
and and they've kind of guided me and given me the confidence to just be myself,
Wow.
you
Wow.
know? And I think if you do that and you don't segregate from your community, you embrace your community, you bring your community along into policing,
Yeah.
you'll be fine.
Right, right, right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, so as far as the challenges from the public, I
yeah.
mean, in Barnet as well, it's a large Jewish community. Again, they embraced me,
Yes. Yes.
So, people are people. As long as you treat them with respect, regardless of the race, religion, background, show empathy,
Yes.
you understand, you try and understand their traumas,
Yes. Yes.
and why they may react to you in the first instance, and you actually take the time to listen and show them that you're listening. Um, uh, you know, the public do come around,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
so in terms of challenges, from the public, no, you know, no, not really. There haven't been any real challenges. The only, the only challenge I struggle to think of is um, in terms of being able to provide a better service
Right.
to the public with
Yeah.
limited resources you know,
Yeah.
and things like that. So, and explaining that to victims of crime that you want to do better for them, but it's not always possible. But on the whole, when you explain things to them, a lot of people do understand.
Right. Right. So I'm gonna, the flip side of that is what's the most rewarding part of the job for you?
The most rewarding part, I think, well, for personally, the most rewarding part has been my own self-development.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't, as I said, I've got a lot out of the experience.
Yeah.
And I suppose in the other rewarding parts is, like I said, just being able to help people,
Yeah.
um, show people that there are good officers out there that do understand, that are empathetic, and leave them with a good feeling that someone, that we do care.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that's one of the most rewarding parts for
Right.
me.
Right.
Um,
Right.
is being able to um, articulate that to people
Yeah.
just through daily contact. I love working with the young people,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the Met give me the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can give you a long list of rewarding parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
It's good. It's good and it's helpful to hear you say there are good officers. Of course, we know there will be good officers, but I would have thought, and I know you're a serving officer, so I've got to respect your position and what you may or may not be able to say. Um, but there have been challenging reports, the Casey report, and other things we've seen from some serving officers that I think most people will find most objectionable. Um, would that add to the challenges that you face where people start not from a position of this officer is good, but the officers may be bad and they've got to prove that they're good from the public? I mean, people meet me as a lawyer and I'd like to think, I'm there to represent them. So they view me in a good light from the start. Is that the same for police officers? Do we view police officers in a good light from the start? Or do we have a negative view and then we think, Shaun's all right, he's okay, he's one of the good ones?
Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. It does make things difficult.
Mhm.
Um, but it is necessary. I think everyone realizes it's necessary to challenge and question um that we're doing things correctly.
Yeah,
Um, so uh, that does it make things more difficult for me? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does make things more difficult for me, but at the same time, it fuels me
right.
to, dig in deeper and work harder and 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 assist the KC report, really,
Yes.
to weed out these bad officers and find better ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So, it really depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but there are some people whose minds are made up, and you're not going to change their minds, how
Sure.
they view the police, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
A lot of promises have been made and broken over many, many years. A lot of trauma has come with that. So, for some of these people, you may never win them over.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it doesn't mean that we must stop trying.
Sure.
So we have to keep going.
Yes. 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 So someone comes up to you and says, Shaun, um, well, they probably won't call you Shaun. They might call you Detective Constable Shaun. We'll come on to that in a moment. But I'm thinking of joining the force. What advice would you give them?
I would say to them, Um, yeah, come in with your eyes wide open. It's, it is a difficult job, um, but it's also a very rewarding job. Make sure you're joining for the right reasons.
Right.
Um, and um, that, and don't let don't let other people's experiences put you off from
Right.
joining it if that's what you want to do,
Right.
because their experience may not necessarily be your experience.
Right.
Um, so, and and you've got to realize also that I've faced many failures throughout my career,
Hmm.
but I don't look at them as failures,
Hmm.
you know. I look at them as stepping stones.
Right. Right.
Um, so you really got to come in with a positive and realistic outlook that it's not going to be a it's not going to be a smooth ride. It's gonna be a roller coaster. But
Yes.
at the end of it, it's up to you what you get out of it at the end of it. But yeah, I definitely encourage people to join.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, like I said, it's um, despite the huge challenges I've faced, I'm thankful for them.
Yes.
Um, because I now have a more rounded perspective
Sure.
of things, and
Yes.
I don't like to be blinkered by anything.
Sure. Sure.
I like to see things from all perspectives. So yeah, it's
Good.
I'd encourage them to join. It's not too late for you, Ryan, if you're thinking of a career change.
Oh my goodness me. God, how good would I be? I don't know. Or how bad would I be, I should say. Well, I should say, I did mention Detective Constable, Shaun. So when did that come about and why did you do it?
So yeah, I became a detective constable quite early on, about 5 years into my career. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, like I said, black detectives were and still are very far and few.
Right.
Um, and I wanted to go into Trident, but back then it's known as Trident, was specialist crime unit where they investigated gang and gun crime and murders and things like that, things that affected the black community.
Right.
So, that's kind of where I knew early on that I wanted to go, and I got in there quite quickly.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, so yeah, I felt that's where I can make the most impact.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons I wanted to become a detective.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah. I would have thought that, say, gun and knife crime, that seems to be very challenging these days. Very rarely do I open a newspaper without some tragedy happening somewhere. If I can put you on the spot, because I think people will be interested to know, are we succeeding in this? Are we succeeding in, I didn't know gun and knife crime when I was growing up when I was a teenager and so on.
you just didn't hear about it, did you?
No, no, no. I hear about it a lot now.
Yeah,
What do we need to do?
I think we need to look at right, let's talk about knife crime.
Hmm.
I think we need to look at why young people are carrying knives,
Yeah.
why they feel the need to carry knives, why they feel the need, uh, why they feel they can use knives, and I think some of that stems back to a lot of the generational trauma in
Hmm.
terms of the relationship between certain communities, but predominantly the black community and the police, and the lack of trust in police and going to them when you have issues. So young people don't feel they can go to the police, so they weaponize themselves. I think there is a lot of trauma um, linked to young people that is not being dealt with
Hmm.
earlier, early enough, and that trauma's been allowed to, uh, you know, creep into their adulthood.
Hmm.
Um, so we need to look at that also. Um, and so, these are things that need addressing. Um, in terms of gun crime, I think gun crime is still relatively low. Because unlike America, we didn't grow up on the way of the gun.
Mm.
So, um, and we are very effective in tackling gun crime. We do get a lot of guns off the streets.
Right. That's good to.
And yeah, throughout my years, yeah, we were very, very effective. In fact, we were so effective, they closed down the Trident murder team
Wow. 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 Okay.
because yeah, our clear up rate was like 166% because we were actually going back solving cold
Right.
cases. So
Yes.
we
Yes.
have been very successful
Good.
in that area. But I
Good.
think where the challenge is now is knife crime.
Yes.
And the fact that young people don't value their own lives, let alone someone else's life,
Sure.
so they don't think twice about putting the knife into someone else,
Yeah. Yeah.
is very sad, and it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
But it's not just affecting, you're seeing it now. It's not just affecting black children. It's
Yes.
affecting all our children. So,
Yes.
we have to work collectively together and stop blaming and deflecting, and start taking on responsibility and actually take time to listen to one another. As I said, we may not agree with one another, but
Sure.
we have to find solutions together. And some are going to work, some are going to fail, but we've got to keep trying. And we've got to keep encouraging people to
Yeah.
try, regardless of whether you think they're going to fail or not. Maybe just because you've tried it and failed doesn't mean that they're going to fail.
Yes. Yes.
So let's,
Good.
we got to keep trying.
Yes. Yeah.
We've got to unlearn this pessimistic view,
Yeah.
and have a more of a progressive,
Mm.
um, progressive thinking,
Yes. Yes.
because that's what our young people are looking to us for,
Yes.
progressive thinking. Because when you come into this world, you're young, you're full of hope, and you're going to change the world.
Yeah.
Well, let's harness that. Let's take some of the, let's take a bit of that from our young people.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a very good point. Very, very good point. Thank you very much. Well, I'm now going to move away. I'm going to shift from Detective Constable Shaun and talk about Black Wall Street Media. Now, you're a co-founder of this. Tell us what is Black Wall Street Media? How did it come about? What does it do?
Okay, so firstly, let me draw some differentiation lines.
Hmm.
Okay, so Black Wall Street Media has nothing to do with me and the Met
Right.
Police. Okay,
Hmm.
all right. I'm the co-founder
Hmm.
of Black Wall Street Media.
Hmm.
I don't run it. My business partner, Dr. Diane Rainey, who's also the co-founder, she runs it. She's the editor-in-chief.
Right.
Um, we we co-founded Black Wall Street Media to address a number of issues. Firstly, um, when I was looking for news across the Black diaspora, I had to look here, there, and everywhere for it. And there are Black news organizations out there, but they cover their own region.
Yes.
And I thought, wouldn't it be good if we could bring them all to one space where people could find them a lot, and access them stories a lot easier? Wouldn't it be great if we had a mainstream black-led, black-owned media organization, um, that can counteract the negative narrative that has been put out there about black people, that linking us only to rap music, drugs, and knife crime, when in actual fact that's not who we are. We are, we have been part of history. We've been pioneers. We've been scientists. We are CEOs of huge companies, entrepreneurs, lawyers, um, doctors, and we are professional people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes,
and it's
absolutely.
important that our community see that because, and our young people in particular, so they can aspire to be these people, and not just footballers.
Yes.
Um, and um, and it's important for the wider community to see us as well, um, because we have a lot and have always contributed a lot to society and not been recognized for that fact.
Mm.
So it's that. It's also about keeping people on the same page. It's progressive in its the news that we put out. Again, it's not about finger pointing or blame or deflection. It's actually about discussing real issues that affect real people and sharing solutions and ideas around that and inspiring people. So it's that and so much more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, that was really the thinking behind it.
Right, right. That's
And
that's very helpful. That probably leads on to coming towards the end. I've noticed that you've been touring the country with some friends and colleagues. Just tell us about that, because what I've read, the bits, it's been seems to be very helpful, very useful, and look very productive. Tell us about.
absolutely. So there's a national race action plan that will be coming out later in the year.
Right.
It's been led by the National Police Chief Council, and it's been supported by constabularies all around the country.
Mhm.
And I'm working with an organization called Elevated Minds, um, or Elevated Voices, and it's run by an amazing lady and her daughter, called Doreen Sinclair, who's the
Right.
CEO, and her background is she was a head teacher of a Peru, and she's got an academic background, and she's actually doing some phenomenal work in turning young people's lives around who young people who society would have given up on because they don't um, understand their needs.
Right.
And I've seen these people go on to become professionals, lawyers, and people like that. And these are people that were written off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's had a huge impact. So what we're actually doing is they had a look at this National Race Action Plan, that's been led by Dr. Alison Hadari, Commander Dr. Alison Hadari, and what they realized was missing. Sorry. So the plan is actually about policing the black community.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And what they realized was missing was young people's voices
Mm.
from the
Right.
plan.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
So Doreen and her team came up with a questionnaire.
Yeah.
And what we're doing, we're going around secondary schools, youth clubs, primary schools, speaking to young people of Black heritage,
Yes.
asking them questions about uh, policing, how it's impacted them, and just gain their views on how they view the police and how they could do better.
Mm.
And it's been very insightful,
Right.
very insightful.
Right.
I've yeah, I've learned an awful lot. Um, because a lot of adults feel they can speak on young people's behalves, but what I'm realizing is um, that we can't.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't. Uh, and those that do try and speak on their behalf and get it wrong, um, get shouted down or
Mm.
challenged.
Mm.
But when it's coming from the young people, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And what the young people are saying is they want to look forward,
Right.
um,
Right. Yeah.
not backwards.
Yes.
Uh,
Mm, mm.
and they are willing to engage with the police, but they are not encouraged to.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
so um, so yeah, there's some remarkable. I tell you what, there's some remarkable young people out there.
No, I know.
Yeah, like I met some kids in primary school, and I cannot believe the vocabulary,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
how insightful they are, and how much they're absorbing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, yeah. I had that last week. That's questioning. It's more, the questions are tougher than some of the questions put to me by some judges. And
Yeah,
they're so innocent and raw. They just, give it to
yeah,
me straight. That's how it comes across. And it's lovely.
absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
rewarding.
yeah.
Very rewarding.
So the next couple of weeks we're gonna be hitting London because we've been
Good.
going around the country,
Right, right.
doing this, and then yeah, hopefully the results will be out towards the last end of the year.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Shaun, look, we're coming towards the end of this, and it's been a pleasure, a real pleasure for me. I put this question to many people that I've spoken to, HR director, teacher, and so on, and I think you've covered this, but I'd like you to address it head on. Um, as a serving officer, what views do you have for the role of diversity, awareness, and inclusion? What role did it play or should play in the police force, in your view?
Um, I It plays a very important role. It For me, we need different perspectives. We need people from different walks of life. And because it's no point looking at things one-dimensionally, um, because then it will only impact on a small portion of the community. So we need diverse voices, we need representation, because, I hate the feeling of anyone feeling left out.
Mm.
It's the worst feeling in the world when you're alone and no one's speaking for you and you're not being heard. So, um, in order to deliver a service that represents everyone fairly, understands individuals and their needs, and and we need to have an open mindset, and we need representation from the top all the way down. If I was a leader and I had a team around me, I would want a team that forces me to look into myself and challenge my own biases, my own decision making, and not people that just nod and agree with me all the time. That's no good to me.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, fantastic. I said one more question. I'm going to ask you this final question. So in 10 years' time, we're doing this again. What Shaun would I see? What would have happened over those 10 years? Or what would Shaun like to see? What would you say?
Um,
And I'll play it back to you in 10 years' time as well.
10 years time, okay.
Okay.
I like to have more hair.
Oh, I leave mine here. I didn't see that one
Um,
coming.
um, 10 years time. I'd like to say that we've made progress, tangible progress,
Yes.
and that we're in a better place. We're not having the same conversation.
Mm, mm,
And I'd like to see that. I'd like you to see I have the same energy, the same enthusiasm as I do now,
yeah.
and because yeah, my heart is with the community,
Yeah.
and that's where it will always remain. So yeah, uh, and just bigger and bolder, and yeah, and just yeah, hopefully would have made some progress by then. So yeah,
Yeah.
I th
Thank you. Sean, thank you very much. You've been very insightful. sharing your knowledge and skill and everything like that. It's been very helpful. I'm sure many people will find what you said being helpful. Congratulations on your 2 decades anniversary. We'll
Yeah,
speak again on your
thank
third.
you.
Well, we'll speak before that, of course, but we do this again on your third decade anniversary. It's been a real pleasure, my friend, and look forward to speaking and hearing from you again and continue with the good work. I've seen
Thank you.
on social media congratulations you've got of 2 decades in the service, and it's
Yeah, I
definitely
was,
good work. It
yeah,
really is.
that was not, that just happened organically because LinkedIn has a way of recording how many years you've worked, and well wishes started pouring in,
Yeah,
and it totally took me off guard, and I was really touched and
well
encouraged
deserved.
by the support. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. And you continue with the good work, my friend, and speak to you again soon. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.